Well, tonight, Slovakia remains in shock just a day after a gunman tried to take the life of its Prime Minister, Robert Fico. Now, he remains in stable but serious condition tonight. The controversial pro-Russian leader was accused of deepening the political divide within his country. Now, as people from across the political spectrum wish him well, there are hopes that Slovaks' shared outrage could lead to a less polarized society.
Fresh from a visit to his friend and political ally, Slovak President-elect Peter Pellegrini confirmed Prime Minister Robert Fico is awake.
He is able to speak, but only few sentences, and then he's really tired because he's under some medication. So, of course, it is very difficult for him. But I had the chance that I came in the right moment when he was able to speak with me a few sentences. But the situation is very critical, and we have to give him a lot of energy and think and be positive. Okay.
The Prime Minister sustained 4 gunshot wounds on Wednesday in the central town of Handlova. Robert Fico is known for his brash and aggressive style of nationalist politics, but his attempted assassination has rocked Slovak society. Prime Minister Robert Fico's condition is now being described as stable, but the question is, can Slovakia stabilise as well? Events like an attempted assassination can force a country in one of 2 ways, either to unify or it can inflame tensions further. Immediately after the shooting, government ministers blamed the Slovak media for creating a climate where tensions are raised to such a point. Journalists like Barbara Shishilakova say they hope the attempted assassination will calm the tone politicians publicly use here.
At press conferences, we very often hear coarse, mocking language used. The question is, which way will this go, better or worse? A positive step today was the press conference of the 2 presidents.
The incoming and outgoing president from opposing parties stood together to call for campaigns ahead of June's European Parliament elections to be toned down. Slovak police have charged a 71-year-old man with attempted murder. He was arrested at the scene of the attack. People here are still struggling to comprehend what's happened.
No matter what people are arguing about or the political situation, shooting someone, I don't understand what kind of hatred is it in this person.
Robert Fico remains in intensive care behind the walls of this hospital. Security is tight here, and his future remains uncertain.
Well, I'm joined now by Viktória Bellová. She reports for the Slovakian TV news channel RTVS. She joins me tonight again from Bratislava. Viktória, it's good to see you again. What is the latest on the Prime Minister's condition tonight?
Good evening from Bratislava. As you said before, Mr. Fico's condition is stable, but he is not yet out of the life-threatening danger. That's what the Minister of Defense, Mr. Kaliňák, said. He had been through 5 hours long surgery, so the condition is very complicated. As we heard from Mr. Pellegrini, he is conscious, he can talk, not too much, but a little bit, and he's staying in Banská Bystrica.
The Slovak authorities today charged a man with attempting to assassinate the Prime Minister. What more do we know tonight about his motive?
It's not too much information about his motive. There was a video leaked probably from the police. Is going to be part of the investigation how this could happen. But in the video, he was saying that he is not agreeing with the steps of the government. Also, some of the media talked to his son, to his neighbors. All of them are saying that they're absolutely shocked and they didn't expect anything like that.
The government today held a press conference. What were the main messages to come out of that?
Yeah, so there were all of the members of the government, but only the Interior Minister, Mr. Šutaj Eštok, and the Minister of Defense, Mr. Kaliňák, were talking. They criticized foreign journalists, but also Slovak journalists. They found their questions offensive. they said that the police have increased security at schools, at the building of parliament and around the building, as well as in media offices. They are also noticing or have noticed increase in hybrid threats. And I also have to say that it's a lot of conspiracies spreading about the incident.
I want to ask you something, maybe this is a little bit more personal. I understand that in the past months, one of the biggest controversies in Slovakia has been Prime Minister Fico's plans to overhaul, some would say to attack, the public broadcaster that you work for. What is the mood among your colleagues, your fellow journalists there tonight?
We are absolutely horrified. We are shocked. As journalists, we are scared, but not in a way that we are scared anything could happen to us. We're just scared we don't live in a safe country anymore, at least that's the mood nowadays. Of course, we are also afraid which steps are coming towards our broadcaster. As you said, it's a lot of scare that there might be a future politician influence, and also what my colleague Barbara Šišoláková had said, that it's a division, now it's either that way or that way, you know, so it's kind of question of democracy. Also, some security measures are taken. I cannot talk too much about that because it's still in an ongoing process, but it's absolutely strange mood at the newsroom, but also in society as well.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, taking the time to report and bring us up with the latest. Certainly wish you and your colleagues all the best. Viktória Bellová, reporter for the Slovakian TV news channel RTVS. Thank you, Viktória.
Thank you. Have a good night.
DW correspondent Jack Parrock is outside the hospital where Robert Fico is being treated. Jack, a suspect has been formally charged. What more do we know about the man and his possible motive?
Yes, we know that he's a 71-year-old man. The Interior Ministry of Slovakia said that he had attended anti-government protests in the past. Slovak media has been reporting quite extensively on this man because he was arrested straight after the shooting yesterday. There are multiple videos of him that have been circulating on the internet. And Slovak media says he's a poet and a writer. They suggest that he was once aligned and turned up to rallies related to sort of patriotic, militaristic groups here, but then changed his political affiliation and started suing for peace. But now we hear from the Interior Minister that potentially he was attending these anti-government rallies and he has now been charged, as you say, with attempted murder of the Prime Minister, Robert Fico.
A lot of concern about his condition, of course, after the attack. The hospital staff gave an update on how he's doing. We'll get back to you in a second, but first let's listen in.
The patient suffered multiple gunshot wounds. The consequences of these will affect his recovery. At the moment, his condition has stabilized, but it is still very serious indeed. That's why he will be cared for in the intensive care unit at the hospital. There, he will be looked after by the entire team of doctors that he will need.
Jack, you're at the hospital where Fico is being treated. What more can you tell us about his condition?
Yeah, so there's been a sort of slight sigh of relief, if you put it that way. It seems that they have stabilised him. The doctors don't look quite as worried as they did immediately in the aftermath of the attack. We know that he's probably going to have to stay in intensive care. He's still been shot 5 times. There's probably a long recovery to go through. But the doctors don't appear to be fearing for his life. And that is obviously a good sign. But it also doesn't really shift the political implications of what this means. An attempted assassination can often have very, very large implications, especially as we run into those European elections coming in June.
This has stoked fears of further acts of violence in the run-up to these elections in about 3 weeks' time. How do you think it's going to affect the remainder of the campaign and the extreme polarization in the country?
Yeah, it is real extreme polarization. I've been speaking to some Slovak journalists, some colleagues, who were firstly very, very nervous to speak to anyone else about the political climate here. Immediately after the shooting, ministers from the government here in Slovakia pointed the fingers at journalists and said, you are to blame for creating this climate. And I spoke to a couple of the correspondents from the Slovak state media. They said that they were really happy to see that the incoming president and the outgoing president earlier, just in the last few hours, came out and called for calm, called for tensions to be diffused, even suggesting that campaigns should be suspended or definitely toned down in the run-up to those elections.
Jack Parrock from Banská Bystrica in Slovakia. Thank you so much for that update.